Imagine having the power to build your own planner from the scratch. Frontend, backend, database, all connected. In this video, I'll show you how to master your MERN stack skills by creating a real-world project. A project you can actually use and showcase. So hit the subscribe button and let's start. So I have a MERN to-do folder right here. So I created it before. So I'm going to open this, and inside that folder, I'm going to right click and open terminal, and using code dot, I'm going to open VS Code. Now here, inside my VS Code, I am now in the root directory, as you can see here in MERN to do. Now I'm going to create two folders. The first one should be backend, and the second one I'm going to make it for our front end. So as you see that we are actually in MERN to do directory. So to go to our backend folder, because we're going to actually start with backend, and then in the second phase we're going to go for front end. So I'm going to just simply cd backend. So now you can see that we are inside the backend folder. So I'm going to open this folder, and I'm going to create a new file inside that. I'm going to call it server.js, and inside that I'm going to console log hello from server. And to run a Node.js server, all you have to do is to simply type node, and then you need to type the name of the file. So I'm going to type node server.js. Now you can see that we have here hello from server. Perfect. Now this was actually the first step we took. Now in order to go further, we need to install a few things. So the first thing we need to do is to npm init inside the backend folder in order to actually create our package.json, and you just put a dash or hyphen y because we want to say yes to everything. Very good. Now we have our package.json here. So this is the name of the project is backend. So let's just change it to do form, or to do simply is enough. And now the main file is going to be server.js, correct? Now here, let's erase this command. We don't need it right now. So just test command is enough, and we don't actually need these things. You can just fill in these if you wanted to. I have here, for example, my first name, Behnam, and description. This is a to-do task application, full stack or MERN stack application. So that's it. We can just leave this package.json. Now we actually go back to our terminal. And the second thing we need to do is to install the Express.js. So what is Express.js? So we know that Express.js is actually a framework for Node.js, and it actually helps us to create a backend side of the project. So if you go to expressjs.com, you can see that it gives you the command you can use to install Express.js. So I'm going to copy this command, and I'm going to just paste it right here. So npm install express and --save. So if you go to package.json, you can see that we have here now dependencies, and then we have actually here express. Perfect. Now here we have actually the code snippets for our Express.js. So we're going to just use this snippet to run our application. So I'm going to go to, let me just shrink my VS Code size so you can see both of them at the same time, and I'm going to close this. So here we can erase this console log, and then we can just say const express is equal to require. So actually I'm typing this line, require, and then inside that we're going to actually write express. So we say const express equals require express. Now, after that, we say actually const app is equal to express. So now we are actually using express. And we can actually define a port like that. For example, we can say const port is, or I'm going to actually make it capital, and I'm not going to give it a port 3000 because I'm going to run my frontend on 3000. So I'm going to just use 4000 as our port. So I'm going to just move this down, and then let's say app dot now the way that we can use this app is that we can, for example, listen. So we say app.listen dot, then first we're going to get the port, which is this variable, and then I'm going to say that we need a function here, and you need to console log I don't know, this we can actually use backticks and say server is running on port, and then we can use port as a variable. You know that inside backticks you can use variables using a $sign and curly braces. So this is why I used backticks. Now if I say npm run node server.js, so you can see that we have here server is running on port 4000. So our server is basically running. Now if I open actually our localhost 4000, which is our port, you can see that we have actually this cannot get, and the reason is simple, because we haven't define any routes for our application. So if I go right at the bottom of this const app equals to express, I can write a get route, for example. Here app dot, I use actually app, then I use the get method. So you know that they are actually HTTP request methods. We have get, put, post, patch, and delete. And I actually use get, and then the first thing I need to do is to get the URL. So I'm going to just choose the root directory. And then I'm going to say rec and res. So what is rec and res? Rec means request and res means response. So whatever request the user sends to the server is the request, and whatever response comes back from the server to the user is basically the response. So after that, I'm going to just open up a function, and inside that, I'm going to say response.send, and let's say hello from server.js. So if I refresh, we see nothing again because we need to restart our server. So I'm going to just stop the server using Control-C. And I'm going to just clear my terminal, and I'm going to run the application again using node server.js. Now if I refresh, you can see that we have here hello from server.js. Now the problem is that whenever we make a change, for example, hi again, now if I make this change and if I refresh, you can see that I cannot see that modification I just did. I changed the text because I need to stop the server and run the server again if I want to node server.js, because I need to restart the server whenever I actually make a change. So this is going to be frustrating. So there's a perfect solution for that. You can simply install a package called NodeMon. So I'm going to say npm install NodeMon. I think it's, and enter. So inside the dependencies, you can see that we have now NodeMon here, this version. Very good. Now, if I, instead of writing node server.js, if I write NodeMon server.js, So you can see now it says NodeMon starting node server.js and server is running on port 4000, and it says actually watching extensions. So it says basically NodeMon is watching the file. So whenever you actually make a change, for example, let's change this hi again to hello, I installed NodeMon, and I save it, so you can see that it actually restarts the server. So if you refresh, you can see that a change is made here. So if you, for example, change it to hi and then refresh, it actually changes, because each time NodeMon is restarting the server after each Control S that we are pushing, so it actually updates the changes for us. So it's gonna just make things simpler. And let's stop the server again. Let's clear everything. Now there's a simpler way to run our backend. So I'm gonna go to package.json. And here in this script, you can just simply put a comma here and come down and write server. So this is going to be the name of our command. And I'm going to write NodeMon server.js. So whenever you actually use this server command, this NodeMon server.js is going to run. So I'm going to say npm run. Using npm, I'm going to try to run this server, which is this command. Now, if I enter, you see that the same thing happens. So the NodeMon is now working and the server is running on port number 4000. All right, now the next step, we need to install our database and we need to connect our project to the database. Now I'm gonna go to my Google Chrome. Let's open a new tab and let's type mongodb.com. Now, if you don't have an account in mongodb.com, you have to first create an account. I already have an account, so I'm going to sign in and I'm going to use my email. And I'm going to log in. All right. As soon as you log in into your account, you see a page like this. So the first thing I'm going to do is to create on this MongoDB Atlas. And here you see a new project button. So I'm going to click on it. So here actually in the page of create project, it asks us about our project name. So I'm going to just type MERN to do. And I'm going to go to the next step. So here, the only person in this project is me. So I'm not going to invite anyone. So create project. At this step, you need to create a cluster for your project. So click on create. And here there are 3 plans. I'm going to choose the free plan. And in this input, it asks us for the name of the cluster. We can just simply put to do, or you can put anything else, doesn't matter. And I'm going to click on create deployment. Very good. Now you see this wizard, and you can see that this is connected to do. Here we have the username and password of our database user. So I'm going to change this username to Behnam, and the password is okay, but we need to just actually write down this information. So I'm going to just open my notepad, bring this notepad right here. So I'm going to copy this username here. This is my username and this is my password. So make sure that you actually write down your username and password so you won't forget them. And then click on create database user. That's it. And choose a connection method. So I'm going to click on this. Okay. Now, before I do anything else, let's close this window. And on the left hand of the page, you have a security tab. And under that, you have security quick start. I'm going to click on that. And here, just roll down the page. And here you have actually add entries to your IP address list, IP access list. Just remove the one that is currently there. Just put 0, 0, 0, 0. And as a description, I'm going to say everyone can connect. So add entry. So this way you won't have any problems connecting to your database, and it doesn't matter because it's just a practice project, so you can just simply add 0, 0, 0. So now I will go to my clusters, and here let's click on connect. Very good. Now I'm going to click on drivers, and here, well, the first thing we need to do is to install MongoDB using this command npm install MongoDB. So let's do that. I'm going to open a new terminal, but be careful. If you open a new terminal, probably you are actually in the root directory. You're out of the backend folder. So let's cd to our backend project. Now I am inside the backend folder right here. You have to be there because if you want to install any packages, it should be inside this backend folder because we want to install MongoDB here in this package.json. So let's type npm install MongoDB. So here we have Express, not Mon, and then we have MongoDB added to the dependencies. And the next step, we need another package called Mongoose, and you can just simply install it using npm install Mongoose. Very good. Now we have MongoDB and Mongoose, both of them. So now we can go to our server right here, and you can just erase this app.listen to port, just erase it, delete it, and then we can we should actually import our Mongoose. So say const mongoose is equal to require and then Mongoose. So come to the down, we go down and type mongoose.connect. So inside this parenthesis, we need to, let me click on connect again, drivers. We have a URL here. I'm going to copy the whole thing. And let's go back to the project. And you should first open quotation marks and then put the URL right here. Now here you have the username and here you have a DB password. Now the thing that you need to do is to go to this note and you can just copy your password and replace it with this DB password. Very good. Now another thing we need to do is to just delete this after this slash, delete this whole thing here and write to do, because we're going to name our database table to do. So after this parenthesis, just erase this semicolon and we just type then, and inside then I'm going to open a new function and let's say console.log connected to the database. And also I want to put my app.listen and let's say port, and then let's open another function, and inside that I'm going to say console.log server is running on port, and then I'm going to use port variable. So be careful that you have to have backticks here. If you have quotation marks, this variable port is not going to work. So, and let's have a catch in case we have an error. And inside that catch, I'm going to create a function and say console log connection failed. Very good. Now, if I go to my backend terminal, you can see that I have here connected to the database and server is running on port 4000. Let me stop my server. Let me run the server again, npm run server. So it's all working perfect. Connected to the database and server is running on port 4000. Very good. Now I have everything working. And now let me just close this one and let me check the app again, localhost. I actually ran my project on port 4000. That's it. Very good. Now to create our project, the first thing we need to do is to create our model. And to do that, let's open this file manager. Inside the backend folder, you create a folder and you call it models. Now inside models, I'm going to create a file called task.model.js. All right. So inside task.model.js, I'm going to say const mongoose is equal to require mongoose. And then under that, let's create our schema. Const task schema is equal to mongoose.schema. And inside that, I'm going to create my first, actually, I'm going to create my task. So the task is going to be the type of string. It's going to be a string and required, yeah, true. So it is required. I'm going to put an error for this requirement. This field is required. Now, after task, let's say task done. This is actually a Boolean. So it checks that if the task is true, if it's true, it's done. If it's false, it's not done. And required, it's true. Now, the next one is actually the color. And the color should be the type of string, but it's going to be also an enum because we're going to pick among these colors: red, blue, green, yellow, and pink, and gray. And we're going to have the default value of gray. So if the user doesn't pick any colors here, the default color should be gray. And after this curly brace right here, we are going to create a timestamp. So let's say that we need a timestamps, and we're going to set it to true. So very good. Now, at the bottom of the page, we're going to create a variable called const task is equal to mongoose.model. So we're going to get the model of task, and it's going to actually follow the task schema rules. And module.exports task. Very good. Now we have our model finished. So now we can go back to our server.js and let's erase this part, this get route, and we're going to start. The first thing I think we need to do is to create our task. So I'm going to create a post method, and inside that I'm going to say app.post, because our request method, our HTTP request is post. So I'm going to just type in here API. The URL should be API tasks. And then after that, I'm going to say rec and res. And inside that, I'm going to create a try catch block. So here I have a try and a catch here. So the catch is actually our error, res status 500. And inside that, I'm going to use JSON. And inside that JSON, I'm going to write message, error.message. And to try, we're going to, for the try, we're going to say const task is equal to await task.create. And then inside that, we're going to ask for rec.body, request.body. And we have an error here. It says await. We actually, our function is not asynchronous, and that is the reason that we have this error. So if you just put the keyword of async right here, the error will be gone. Now we have everything all set up. So be careful that if you want to use the keyword await inside your function, you need to make your function asynchronous. So res.status 200, because if everything is okay and the task is created, so the status is going to be 200, and we're going to get the data as JSON, and then we're going to put the task inside that. This should be lowercase. I actually made this uppercase, and that was the reason that I got an error. So it should be const task with lowercase, await task. And now I have an error for this task because this file doesn't know what actually task with the capital T is. So this is the model, and this is the place that I need to bring in my model. So let's say const task is equal to require, and I'm going to just go to the models folder and get the task.model. Now this error is gone as well. So to test the API, what I need to do is to either use Postman, which is one application to test the API, and another one is actually Insomnia, and you can install either of them. So if you want to use Postman, you can just simply go to Postman website here, and you can download the app and use Postman as your testing API application, or you can simply go to Insomnia. Insomnia test API app. Yeah, this is actually Insomnia website, so you can download the app for Windows. I'm gonna actually use Insomnia as my testing API application, so you can use Postman if you like. It doesn't make any difference. So this is the Insomnia application, and let me create a new collection here. I'm going to call it MERN to do. So here I'm going to create a new HTTP request, and let me make this bigger a little bit. Very good. Now here you can just add your URL. My URL is HTTP localhost 4000, and then we had actually API and tasks. As you remember, we actually have API tasks, so we added this to the end of our URL, so we need it here. And also we need to change this get to post, because we're going to make a post request. As you remember, here we have a post request. Now, one more thing you need to do first before we actually make any request. Under this const app is equal to express, you need to just say app.use express.json. You need to do that if you want to post data as JSON, if you want to get data as JSON. So just put it under app.express, and then let's go to this body, and then this no body should be JSON. All right, now before we create our first task, let's take another look at our task model. So you can see that here we had actually a task, which is a string, a task done, and it's a Boolean, and a color, which is a set of colors, red, blue, green, yellow, pink, gray, and we're going to choose one of them, and the default is gray. So inside this JSON body, we're going to open and close curly braces. So the first one is name, task. And for example, let's say learn JavaScript. And then I'm going to go for task done, and it should be false. And color, we're going to choose red as the color. Now, if you it should be inside quotation marks. So let me erase that. Color red. So be careful that this actually the key and the value, both of them in JSON, should be in quotation marks. Now, if I send my request, you can see that my first task is successfully created. So first task is learn JavaScript, and you can see that here task done is false and color is red, and there's an ID, which is actually the default ID that is created by MongoDB. We have a created ad and an updated ad, which is a timestamp. Now you won't see this created and an updated ad if you don't have this timestamps under your schema. So be careful that you put this timestamp there. If I go to my MongoDB right here to my clusters, if I open my browse collections And let's open this to-do. Here I have a to-do, so you can see that my tasks are created here, and my first task is saved inside the database. Now let's create another task. For example, meet John on Tuesday. It should be false, and let's color it blue. And that's it. Second task is created. Let's create another one, and I'm not going to choose a color for that, because if you remember, we actually, in our schema, we said that the default color should be gray. So if we do not actually choose a color, the gray should be actually chosen by default. So let's say, I don't know, take the trash out. And if we create our task, you can see that the task is created and the color is gray. Very good. Now that we actually created our post, let me just rename this a new request. I'm going to just rename it to create a new task. And I want to create a new route that actually gets all the tasks, that we can actually show all the tasks that we have created. So first, let me change this comment from post to create a new task. Let me actually write them capital, create a new, I want to put a hashtag, create a new task. I'm going to close the function so our code is more clear. I'm going to create another comment and say get all the tasks. Now here I'm going to just say app.get. This time I use get as my HTTP request method, and inside that the route should be API tasks again. Let's create our request and respawn, and inside the function, oh wait, first we need to make this function asynchronous because we want to use the await again, the await keyword. So let's create a try catch block inside the catch, which is our error. We say res.status 500 JSON, and then inside that we say message should be equal to error dot message, which is this error. And inside try, let's say const tasks is equal to await. We're going to get the task and we're going to find all the tasks. So you actually don't put anything inside these curly braces because you're not looking for a specific task. You want all the tasks to be fetched. So after that, let's say res.status. If we actually get the task successfully, we're going to show the status of 200, and the JSON, the task should be right there. And that's it. Now, this route on the get method, let me create a new HTTP request and let me rename it to get all tasks. So I'm going to say HTTP localhost 4000, which is our URL, and then we have API tasks. Now, if I send this request, you can see that I have all the 3 tasks. If you had any error or if you had actually can't access to the tasks and so on, all you have to do is to stop the server using Control-C and then run the server again, npm run server. I actually didn't have this error because once I stopped my server and I ran it again. But if you had any problems fetching these tasks, all you have to do is to restart your server again. Now you can see that I can have all of my tasks here successfully. Now, the next thing I want to do is to be able to get one single task. It means if I, for example, want just this, I don't know, learn JavaScript task, I want to use its ID and get this single task. Now to do that, I'm going to create a new function, get one single task. So let's say app.get, and again we use actually get as our HTTP request method, and then the URL should be API tasks, and after this task, I'm going to use a colon and ID because we're going to use that as a parameter. So this ID is going to get this ID from here, and it's going to just show the task with this specific ID. So let's say request and respond here. So first things first, we need to try catch block. Let's get the error, res.status. Let's say 500 JSON. And if there is an error, it's going to show the error.message. Now inside the try block, so first we need to create a const of ID, which is going to be actually request params, which is going to use actually the parameter. It's going to look at this part of the URL, which is actually the ID. And then we're going to say const task await. Sorry, I always forget to put this asynchronous here. So be careful that you have to have this asynchronous before your request response. So we're going to say const task await task.find by ID. So you're going to use this keyword find by ID. And then inside that, you're going to put this ID right here. So this ID, which is actually at the end of the URL, is going to be the ID of that specific task. Now we say res.status 200 and then JSON. So we're going to get the task. And I actually used singular here. Let me check. Here I actually use plural because in get all tasks, we want to get all the tasks. But here I actually wrote task because we want to get just one single task. Now I think we are all set up. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now let's go to our Insomnia application. I'm going to create a new HTTP request and I'm going to call it get one task. Get one task. Doesn't have to be uppercase. Get all tasks. Okay, so get one task. Now I'm going to copy this URL and paste it here. Now I'm going to put a slash here. Now you can choose either of these tasks. For example, let's say take the trash out. This is the ID. So I'm going to copy the ID here. I'm going to copy that. And let's go to get one task and I'm going to paste it right here. Now, if I send that, you can see that I have just one task, which is actually take the trash out. Let's try another one. I'm going to just get this learn JavaScript. I'm going to get the ID. Let's copy that. And let's put it right here. And if I send, you can see that I have the task learn JavaScript. So this way you can actually get just one single task. Now, let me close that. We have so far 3 routes. Now the next one is actually the update route. So we're going to say update a task. So let's say apt dot. So you can either use put or patch method. I'm going to use put. And let's say the URL should be API tasks. And again, we need to use the ID parameter. Sorry, the ID parameter, because we're going to just update one task and we're going to consider the ID of the task. So let's create the async keyword. And thank God I didn't forget it this time, request and response. And then, sorry, you have to open and close curly braces. Now inside that, we're going to create a try and catch block. Again, res.status. I'm going to write the catch one again first because it's simple. 500 JSON and message should be error.message. And inside try, first thing we need to do, what is that? it's the ID. So first we need to get the ID as the parameter, and then we say const task. We should await for task.find by ID and update. So you actually use this keyword, find by ID and update. And then we put ID and also request.body. And this time we need this request.body additionally because we're going to put new data in this body part like this. We're going to put some information inside body. So whatever the user puts inside the body is going to be is going to update whatever inside the body and for the task with this specific ID. So let's have a condition in case the ID is not valid and in case a task with a specific ID does not exist. So we say if there's no task, if task does not exist, we should return. Let's return because you have to just stop, the application should stop doing anything after this failed request. Status 404, which means not found, and then the message is clear. The message should be task not found. So if there's no ID, it should show the error of task not found. And after that, if there is a task, we're going to say const task, and we're going to wait for the task and find by ID. We're going to find that task by its ID. Sorry, not task. I made a mistake. We have already task here. We're going to say const updated task. Yeah, because we get the task here and we change the actually information here, and here we have an error handling if there is no task, and then if there is a task, we're going to create a new one. Actually, we're going to update and put it in a new variable, updated task, and let's say wait for task.find by ID, and let's say res.status 200, and inside that JSON, we're going to say updated task, and that's all. Now to test that, let's create a new HTTP request, but it has to be not get but put, and I'm going to name it update a task. Let's go to this let's go to get all tasks. I'm going to copy the URL and paste it right here. Now let's choose one of them. For example, this take the trash out. I'm going to copy this whole ID here. I'm going to put it right after the tasks. Now you go to body and choose JSON. And here I will say, for example, the task should be, I don't know, go shopping. Now, if I send, you can see that this task actually has changed the name to go shopping. If I go to get all tasks, you see that this take the trash out. If I send the request again, this is now go shopping. Now let's change another one, meet John on Tuesday. Let's change that. I'm going to copy the ID here. Let's go here and change the ID. Instead of John, I will say meet Jane for studying. And then I send it, and you can see that this is the update is successfully done, meet Jane for studying. Now if I go to my get all tasks tab and send the request again, the second one is meet Jane for studying. You can change either of them. You can change, for example, the color. Let's go and change the color. So I think this task is blue. Meet Jane for studying is blue. I'm going to erase that, say color, and the color should be green. So let's change it. So you can see now the color is green. So if I go to get all tasks and send a request again, meet Jane for studying, the color is now green. Very good. Now the last thing we want to do is to create our delete request. So I'm going to write here delete task. So let's say app.delete. So we're going to choose the delete request, HTTP request method. The IP should be API tasks. And again, we need that ID parameter because we want to delete one task. And using the ID, it should be a specific task. So let's say async and request and response. Let's open and close curly braces. So inside that, we're going to create a try and catch block. So let's handle the catch error first. Res.status. Let's say 500 in JSON. And the message should be error.message. Now inside try, we're going to first get the ID. So we say const ID is equal to request.params. And let's say const task is equal to await task dot find by ID and delete. So this time I have a typo here. This shouldn't be uppercase. Let me write it from the top. Find by ID and delete. So you have to be careful. This is lowercase find. This by, B is uppercase, ID is I is uppercase, and is uppercase, D is uppercase. So instead of having spaces, we have just capital letters. And inside that, all you have to do is to just put the ID as the parameter. Now, let's handle if there's no task with that specific ID. So if there's no task, all we have to do is to return response with the status of 404 with the JSON message of task not found. But if there's a task, all we have to do is to just press.status 200, and then we're going to just show a message, say task deleted successfully, and that's all. Now let's create a new HTTP request, and I'm gonna call it delete a task, and the method should be delete. And let me go to this get all tasks. I'm gonna copy this API URL right here, and let's go to get all tasks. Let's just send another request. So we have 3 tasks: learn JavaScript, meet Jane for studying, and go shopping. So I'm going to just delete this go shopping task. I'm going to copy the ID, and let's go to this delete task. I'm going to put a slash and put this ID and send. So message task deleted successfully. Perfect. Now if I go to get all tasks and send a request, you can see that we have only 2 tasks. Very good. Now we have created our CRUD API successfully. Now what I want to do before I go to front end part of the project, I want to clean up our server and backend file a little bit. I want to make a cleaner file because now all of the functions, all of the methods, controllers, and everything are now inside the server.js. But I simply want to just put them in separated files so we have a cleaner code, and then we go for frontend. So let's first clean up our server.js. All right, the first thing we need to do to have a clean code and organize our backend project is that we need to go to our file explorer here. Let's create a folder called routes. Let's create another one called controllers and another one called DB. So inside routes, we're going to create a task.route.js, and inside that we're gonna bring in our const express is equal to require express, and let's bring our router. Const router is equal to express.router. Oh, sorry, I have typo. Const router is equal to express.router, and we're gonna create our routes here. So let me just create a simple route here. Get all tasks, and it's gonna be router.get, and let's put our URL here, and let's, all right, before we do that, let me first export my route, task.route. So let's say module.exports is equal to router, and that's it. Now, the first thing we need to do is to go to our server.js, and first we need to bring in our router file here. So let's say const task route require, and we're gonna just get the address of our routers here. So inside routes folder, task route. Now we have here task route. So the first thing we need to do in your server.js, we're gonna go under this const app express and use JSON. I'm gonna create a comment here and say routes, or let's say task routes, or let's say task route, and let's say app.use and app.use, and inside that we're going to put our URL, which should always have the API and tasks, and we put a comma here, and we put our task route right here. Now that we have here API tasks, it means that this is the default API for all of these routes that we're going to put inside the task route. So inside my get all tasks here, if I say router.get, and if I say slash, it actually means slash API tasks. So you don't have to here write API tasks, because if you do, it's going to be twice API tasks. So we actually put this here, API tasks, once, and you don't need to do that anymore. So this empty slash here, this single slash here, means that this API tasks will be always assigned to this URL. So here we need our controller. So now we need to go to our controller and write our task.controller.js. Now inside our controller, what we need is to bring our const task, which is actually the model. So we're going to get it from require. So you need 2 dots because we want to go out of the folder, and let's go to models and bring the models inside. Now let's let's bring our get all tasks from the server. So you go to server.js, and inside this get all tasks, let's open this. You cut this try catch block, and be careful, not these ones, not this first line. Just inside that, this try catch block, you're going to cut it. Let's cut it, and let's bring it to task controller. And inside task controller, what you have to do is to write const get all tasks. We're going to put them inside a function. It's going to be an asynchronous function, and request and response. And then let's just put this try catch block right here. Now what you have to do is to export module.exports, and then you just put this get all tasks right here. Now let's go to task.route. So what you need to do right here is to is to bring that controller. So we say const get all tasks is equal to require, and then let's just go to our controllers and get this task controller. So you have this get all task. So here you have a router.get, and you just put a comma here, and you just put the controller right here. So let's go back to server, and we can simply delete this get all tasks. So now let's just check it out. Here we have the task routes, which here we define our URL, which is api.tasks. Now let's go to task.route. The route is actually an empty URL, an empty slash, a single slash, which means this API tasks. Now this get all tasks is actually this controller right here. Now if I go to my Insomnia and go to get all tasks and send for all the tasks again, you can see that this simply works. You can do the same thing for all the other tasks. Go to task.route. So I'm going to go for get a single task router.get. And you remember that for that we needed an ID as a parameter. So you had actually API tasks and a slash ID. So for that, you need to put this ID here. And I'm going to name the function get single task. Let's copy the name of the function. And let's go to task controller. So I'm going to create a get a single task. And let's create a function const get a single task is equal to async request and response. And now let's go back to server. Here we have this get one single task. I'm going to open this, just cut the try catch block and put it right here. So let's go back to server. You can just simply delete this get one single task. Now we need to get the single task, export it from task controller and import it inside the task routes. So you can see, let's just check it, get one task, and yeah, it works. Perfect. Now let's go for create a new task. So we say router.post because this is a post request, and the URL is actually just API tasks. And let's say create task. So let's create a function inside the controller. I'm going to close this one. So we say create a new task. Const create task is equal to asynchronous function request response. And let's open and close curly braces. Let's go to server. Now here we have create task. Let's open that. Cut the whole thing, the whole try catch block. Let's erase that. And we go to controller and paste it right here. Now the next step, create task should be exported and should be imported here. Now let's test that too, create a new task. So let's say clean up your backend file. Now let's send. Yeah. Perfect, it works. Very good. Now the next one is the update a task router.put. If you remember, for this we need an ID parameter as well. Update task is going to be the name of the function. So I'm going to take it and go to the controller. So just let's put the comment here. Update a task. Const update task is equal to asynchronous function request and response. And then let's go to server.js and let's bring this whole try and catch block and paste it right here. Let's close that. We're going to export this update task and we're going to import it right here. The last one is delete a task. We're going to use router that delete. Here we need the ID parameter as well. And let's say delete task. And we're going to go for the task controller, delete a task, const delete task is equal to asynchronous request response. And then we go to server.js, erase this update task, open this delete task and cut this and put it right here. So let's export this delete task and let's import it inside the router, and that's it. Now we have our routes, we have our controllers, which you can see is very clean. Now we can actually clean up our server.js. So we don't need this task anymore, this task model. And now I think it's time to clean up this database file, this database code snippet, because I want to just put it inside a separated file. So to do that, I first open my DB folder and let's create a file called db.js. Now inside that, you actually create your mongoose where you actually define your mongoose at the top of the page, const mongoose require mongoose, and then here you say const connect db. We're going to create a variable, we call it connect db, and connect it to, so first let's take this URL from here and paste it right here. And so what did I do wrong? I think I did something wrong. Const, oh sorry, I made a mistake, sorry. Let's copy this. We should say actually const connect db is equal to asynchronous function. What did I do? And then we say, we open curly braces. We're going to create a try catch block, and inside try we're going to say wait for mongoose to connect. Now we connect to the server, and I put actually the variable, the URL here, and if this URL works, we need to console.log connected to the database. And then if there's an error, we say console.error database connection failed. Let's process.exit 1. So we actually exit the process after that. So we need to export this module. We need to export this variable connectdb. So we say module.exports connectdb because we want to use it in server.js. So if you don't export your connectdb, it's not going to work in server.js. So in server.js, first we erase this whole code here from this mongoose to the end. Let's delete that. Let's bring our variable connectdb. So we say it requires, and let's just get the file db.js, and you can just simply erase this mongoose here. You don't need it anymore. Oh, sorry, we have to write const connectdb. So instead of that, we can simply first, let me create a comment, database and server. So you can use your connectdb here, and then you can say then. So inside that, we're going to create a function, app.listen, port. It's going to listen to the port 4000. And then we create another function. Inside that, we're going to console log server is running on port, and then we use port variable. So let me restart the server. I'm going to stop the server. Let's run the server again using npm run server. Very good. So you can see it is connected to the database and server is running on port 4000. But now the difference is now we have a much cleaner server.js. We have actually at the top of the page, we import Express, we have our port, we have our routes, and our database here is imported. And as you can see here, we have actually defined only one route, which is a task route, which has actually always has the endpoint of API tasks. Now inside this task route, we actually define our routes, and each route has its own controller, and the controllers are all here. Very good. So now we are ready to go for the front end of the project. So we start designing our front end, and then we just connect our backend to our front end React and make the application work. Let's go. All right, now for the front end part of the project, let's open the terminal. And the first thing, now we don't need this insomnia for now. Let's open a new terminal, and we are actually inside MERN to do, which is the root directory of our project. So I'm going to just cd to my front end, cd front end. So now I am inside the front end directory. Be careful to go inside the front end directory. Now using npm create vite @latest dot, I'm going to create my React project. So let's enter. So the first thing here is we need to choose the React as our library, and we're gonna use JavaScript, plain JavaScript. Use roll down Vite, choose no, and install with npm and start, choose no. Now we have our React snippet right here. Let me make my terminal bigger. Now let's install our Node modules folder using npm install. It's gonna take a while, so we're gonna wait. All right, now the first thing we need to do before we run our app, we're gonna do a few changes. I want to run my React application on port 3000. So let's open this vite.config.js, and under this plugins here, after this comma, enter, write server, and then open and close curly braces, write port 3000. So this way your front-end app will be running on port 3000. Now there are two packages I want to install at the beginning of our work. The first one is React icons. So I'm gonna install React icons using npm install react-icons. And the next one is Tailwind CSS. So I'm going to say install Tailwind for Vite. Let's open this link. Here we have actually a guide step-by-step how to install Tailwind CSS for React with Vite. You just need to copy this command, npm install Tailwind CSS, @Tailwind CSS /Vite. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it right here. Enter. Now, after installing this command, you need to go back to this page, and there are two lines you need to copy. This is the first line. I'm going to copy this and then come to this vite.config.js and paste it right here. And there is this tailwind.css and parentheses. Just copy this and put it inside plugins right there. Very good. Now one last thing you need to do is to copy this import Tailwind CSS and just bring it, just open your src folder, open your index.css, erase everything and paste it right here. Now as far as these folders and files, you just delete assets and delete app.css. We don't need it. and open this app.jsx and delete everything inside that. We're going to create our React snippets using RAFCE. And then, so if this RAFCE doesn't work for you, it means that you don't have that extension. There's an extension for that. This is the extension, ES7, React Redux, and so on. So you have to install this extension for this RAFCE to work. And if it doesn't work, by the way, it doesn't matter. You can just type out this functional component. So I'm going to erase that, and I'm going to create an H1 here, say to the MERN stack to do app. And now I can run my application using npm run dev. Now you can see my application is running on port 3000. So if I just open that in my browser, you can see that this MERN stack to do application is right there. Very good. Now let's check if our Tailwind works. Class name, text 4XL, and text red 500. Yeah, so our Tailwind classes are working fine. So we can start creating our front end. But before that, there are a few things you need to import. First, import useState and from React, and you're gonna just need to import your icon names. There are some icons we're gonna use, so just write import for trash, which is gonna be the delete icon, for rect circle, for check circle, and for tasks. So just type exactly what I type and write from React icons /FA, which means font awesome, from font awesome. So just type everything here I typed. And now I think it's time to start designing our application. So let's delete this H1. Now to this div, the first div, we're going to give it a class name of py50, px10, mean height should be screen, and width should be full. We're going to give it a bg gray of 900, and flex items center, and justify should be as well center, and let's give it a text white. So this is the first adjustment, and now we're gonna create a container here. So the container is going to have a div, and the div should have the class name of width 250. Now inside that container, we're gonna have a header, and the header is going to be a div with the class name of bg gray 800, and a width full, and a height fit, and p5 padding 5, rounded xl, and flex items center, justify between, and a gap of 5. So this is going to be our header. Now inside that header, we're gonna have an H1 with the name of Kodiak Planner. You can name it as you wish. So the class name for this H1 should be text3XL and margin bottom 2. So this is the actually the header of our project. Now for our under that H1, we're gonna have a, so just give me 1 second. Just cut this H1, sorry, I made a mistake. Inside that div header, you're going to create another div and put this h1 inside that div. So this is going to be actually the header part on the left, and the next one is going to be on the right. So inside that div, let me close this terminal, let me close this Explorer. So this is your div header, as you can see, and inside that div header, create another div, which is going to just be the left container, and put that h1 inside that. Now under that, we're going to create a p tag. It's going to be use this app to remember whatever you want to do during whatever you want to do. That's it. These things actually don't matter. So text is going to be SM, and text should be zinc and 400. So this is going to be the left of our project actually, and my screen wasn't 100%, sorry. Now on the right, we're going to have a div, and inside that div, we're going to have our for tasks, and just let's close it. So the for tasks icon is right there. So let's just give it a little bit of styling. Let's give it a class name of text 5XL and text gray 400. So this now will look like this. So the header section is now finished. Now we're gonna go for the form, which is the form we're gonna submit. So let's create a form, and we're gonna erase this action. Let's give it a class name of bggray100. Let's give it a flex justify between, and a gap of 5, and a padding of 5, and a rounded XL. So it's going to have a border radius, margin top of 3, and a width of full. So this is going to be the form under that Code Your Planner header. Now inside that form, so the form is going to actually be here, very important. You have to be careful that first we need an input, and that input is going to be type text. We're going to give it a placeholder. Write your task here, and under that, let's give it a class name px3, padding from left and right, padding from top and bottom to bggray 900, which is going to be the same as the background. And let's give it a width full and a rounded MD and an outline of 0. So this is going to be our input. Very good. Now this is actually the task input. Now under that task input, we're going to have our colors. But because we have a lot of inputs for our colors, I'm going to just do it slowly and step by step so you don't get confused. But first things first, we need a use state here to get our colors work. So I'm going to create const color, set color, and then let's just make it equal to use state. And by default, we're going to give it a gray color. So for the colors, we're going to have first a div, and we're going to give our div a class name of flex items center and gap 4. So inside that div, we're going to create first our red color. So the red color is going to be first a label, and the label should have a class name of cursor pointer. Now inside that label, we're going to create, so be careful that you actually create this inside the label. It should be inside the label. So we actually create our input, and the input should be radio, and we're going to give it a name of color. The value should be red, the value should be red. And we're going to give it a checked attribute. And if the color is equal to red, it's going to be checked. And we're going to give it an on change. And the on change is going to be actually set color to e.target.value. So now this is our red color. Now another thing is that we need to give it a class name of hidden, because we don't want this radio to show up here. And under that input, we're going to create a span, and this is going to actually act as a color container. So we're going to give this span a class name of, well, first, because we want our colors to be dynamic, instead of these quotation marks, open and close curly braces, and use backticks, and let's say W6, which is width 6, the height should be 6, and it should be rounded full, so it looks like a circle. BG should be red 500, and it should be block. Now inside that, we're going to say if the color is equal to red, what should you do? You should actually give it a border 2 and border white. So we're going to give it a border 2, border white, and if it's not, we're going to give it a border 2 but a border transparent. Okay, now let's take a look. The color is not there. Why? I think the problem should be here. Oh yeah, I actually have your W-6 here. I should have H-6 because it is width and this is height. So now if I go there, so I can see that I have red here. Now if you select the color, you can see that there's gonna be a white border around that color. Now let's create the next one, which is actually the blue color. So for that, all you have to do is you have this label, just copy this label from this red comment and paste it right here. Let's change this to blue. Now what we need to do is to change this reds to blue, and now if I click on the blue, you can see that there's going to be a white border around that. Very good. So let's get the other color, which is the green color. So I'm going to change all of them. These first, let's change this comment to green, and then this blue, this one, and this one should be green. But this 500 should be 400, like that. Let me close these colors because they're going to actually make the code very messy. So let's close that as well. Let's copy this green color and let's go for the next color, which is yellow. So let's get all of these green colors and let's make them yellow. And the yellow should be as well 400. And now let's copy this again. Let's close this. And oh, sorry, I think I need to change this to yellow. All right, this is the yellow. Yeah. And the next one's gonna be the pink color. So for that, I am going to change the colors from yellow to pink, but the pink color should be 500. So after pink, I'm going to have the gray color. And this is gray. But the gray should be 300, not 500. So Now there are my colors. So I can simply choose my colors. So let me close this label. And now the next thing I need, so let me just let's just close all these colors div. So when we just open them when we need them. So the next thing we need to do is to create a button. So I'm going to create a button, and the button should be submit. And I'm going to give it a class name of bgred600, a hover bgred700, and a px3 and py2, a rounded md, so the border radius is actually a smoother, and a cursor pointer. And this is my button. So the form is as well completed. I think we can go now for the list of our tasks. So under that form here, we can create our tasks. So let me just create a tasks here. Tasks. So these tasks should actually be a UL. So I'm going to create a UL here, and that UL should have a class name of flex call, and gap2, a width of full, and an empty or margin top of 3. So I'm going to create a sample task here. Well, the sample task, it's going to be an LI. So the LI is going to have a class name of width full, bg gray 950, a padding left and right 6, a padding top and bottom 5, a rounded XL, and a flex justify should be between. Now this is the LI. Now inside that LI, I'm going to have a content. So the content should have a div. The div should have a class name of border L5, a border red 400, a PL3, and a rounded MD. And inside that div, I'm going to have a P tag, and the P tag should be, this is a sample task for showing the template and learn, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's enough. So the class name is text XL and MB1. So if we just take a look at the project, we see something like that. And now after that, we can create a span under our P tag, and the first span should have the class name of TextSM and text zinc 400. So we're going to say created on. So this is actually the first line of our span, and I'm going to create another span, and it's going to be Wednesday. So we're going to change the color to red 400, but we're going to give it a if we want to have a space between this created on and Wednesday, just open and close curly braces and put a quotation mark and put a space. So now you can see that we have a space right there. So let's create another span, and inside that I'm going to create December 12, 2025, and the hour should be 22:30 p.m. Something like that. And the Wednesday should be font bold. And for the space, I would do that again to this one. So it's going to be it should be created, not create on. Created on. Very good. So now after this div, we're going to create another one, which is for the buttons. So under that content, I'm going to write buttons. So that buttons should have a div. This div should have a class name of flex, items, center, and gap 3. And inside that, we're going to create a button. The button should have the class name of, this is actually the delete button, takes spread 500 and a cursor pointer. And to bring a delete button, we can just simply use var trash, which is actually these names that I am using. They are just these names here. They are icons I'm bringing from FontAwesome. So this is the var trash icon. Now we need an icon for ticking the application and actually change the status from not done to done. So let's create another button. Let's give it a class name of text gray 400, a cursor pointer, and also a text LG. And inside that, we're going to say var reg circle. So this is the second icon. Now let me create another sample task for you. This is, for example, another sample task. And for the other sample task, I'm going to use actually for check circle. And you can see that this circle is actually ticked and checked. So this means that we actually, when we do a task, we actually click on this. And also, not only we need to change the icon, we also need to change the style of this p tag. So we're going to actually, let's go to the p tag. We're going to actually give it a line through and give it a color of gray 400. So it should look like this. When the task is done, the circle should be checked and the color for this p tag should be gray, and there should be a line through that. And let's change the colors. For example, it should be blue. If it's a blue task, it's going to look like this. No, sorry, not the delete button, just these ones. So the UI of the project is now finished. Now we can actually start fetching the backend API from this backend application. You know that, let me go to the terminal. You can see that our backend application is still running on port 4000. Let me just run my application again. npm run. I am inside the backend folder, as you can see. npm run server. So you can see that I have here my server running, connected to the database service running on port 4000. And now here in this terminal, let me close my React app. You can see that inside Frontend, if I run npm run dev, my Frontend application is running on port 3000. So on port 3000, I have my Frontend application, and on port 4000, I have actually my backend application. Let's go to API and tasks. So you can see that API tasks is working. Now I can use this backend API and fetch it from my front end and actually show the real-time data here. So we're going to do that, but we actually need a few tools that we need to install before we fetch the API. All right, so the first tool we need to install is Axios. We want to use this package to fetch the backend API and use it in our front-end project. So I opened a new terminal and let's cd into frontend. Make sure you are inside frontend folder. So I'm going to install Axios, npm install Axios. It's written like this, Axios. So, and now we have Axios installed, and there is another package I want to install. It's called npm install react toastify. I'm going to use this for our toast errors and messages. So let's install that as well. Very good. Now we have React Toastify. So let us go to the app.jsx. Let me close all these extra files. We don't need them. And let's start from the top. So the first thing we need to do is to first bring the use effect hook here, because we want to use it later. And let's bring the Axios. So I'm going to import Axios from Axios. And well, for the toast errors from Toastify that I actually installed before, I'm going to write here toast error. Let's just import toast, and we're going to bring it from React Toastify. And let's bring our toast container from, again, React Toastify. And also let's import our React Toastify /dist /React Toastify.css. Now we have this toast container. What we need to do is to just put our toast container here under that closing div, up above that closing div. So just make sure this toast container is here. Very good. And I think that's it. So now we're gonna go inside our app here and up above this color, this use state. So I'm going to just write here the use state hooks. So these are our use state hooks. So we have const color. I'm going to create another one, const tasks, and set tasks, which is going to be the container of all of our tasks, and it's going to be an array. So I'm going to say use state, and it should be equal to an empty array by default. Now I'm going to use another one, const task and set task, and be careful, there's a difference between them. This is a tasks array that holds all the tasks inside, but this is just one single task. So this is actually what we are going to put insert in this input here. This is going to be task. So we're going to say it's equal to use state, and the default value should be an empty string. Very good. Now, the next step we need to take is to define our backend URL. I'm going to just call it API URL, and let's create a variable called const API underline URL. And if you remember, our backend URL is HTTP localhost 4000. And if you remember again, we had API and tasks at the end of the URL as the endpoint. So this is gonna be our, oh sorry, I don't know what happened, but API tasks. So this is gonna be our URL, which actually we're going to use later in our application. So the next thing we need to do is to fetch the tasks. So what I'm gonna do is to create a variable, create a function actually. So const fetch tasks, and it's gonna be an asynchronous function. Now inside that asynchronous function, I'm going to create a try and catch block, and let's say that const res is going to await to use Axios, and we're going to get actually the API URL, which is here. So we're going to use this HTTP localhost 4000 API tasks, and also we're going to set tasks, this one, to res.data. So we're going to actually set the tasks to this data that we're getting from the server. So the error should be console.error, and it should be error fetching tasks, and we're gonna just show the error itself. And that's it. So after this fetch tasks, we're going to use our use effect hook. So let's write use effect. So let's say use effect, and inside that use effect function hook, we're going to just call this fetch tasks function, and we're going to just put this empty array here. So now that we have done this, what we can do is to just take let's just test our API and make sure that it actually works. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm going to console log this. I'm going to console log these tasks and make sure that I'm actually getting them. So let's go under use effect and say console log tasks. Now, if I open if I go to my Google Chrome and if I inspect and console, let me refresh. Now I have an empty array and my array does not actually have anything. Now we have an error here. What is the error? Access to XML HTTP requests, localhost from origin, blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay, here we have actually a problem with CORS policy, and this means that we need to install a package in our backend side of the project. So what you need to do is to go to your project. Here, let's cd ... So you actually go out of your front-end folder. Now let's see the backend. So we go to our backend directory right here. So I am going to npm install CORS. So now we have actually this CORS package. And after we install CORS, we need to do something in our server.js. So we go in our server.js, and what we need to do is to first bring CORS using const CORS is equal to require, then CORS, and then under this app use express JSON, we can say app.use, and then we can say CORS, and inside that we can put the origin and the URL that we actually want to allow that to use this API. So we're going to say HTTP localhost 3000. So, and the origin. So, oh, sorry, I have to open and close curly braces, not brackets. So let me just type it again. I am very sensitive about these things. So app.use, and then inside that use, here we write CORS, and then you open parentheses again, and then you put curly braces. So here you say origin, and the origin should be HTTP localhost and 3000. It's going to be the URL. And also we should say app.use CORS. So what is the difference between these two? If I put this one here, I actually let only this URL to use the API. But if I delete these and if I use this instead, app use CORS, it actually allows all the domains to use this URL, API URL. Since we are creating a practice project, we are not actually worried about the matter of security, so we can actually put this line here and let all the URLs to use this app. But if you want to make sure that only one application with the URL of 3000 can use this API, you can just put this one here and get rid of this. So now you know what is the difference. So I'm going to just delete this, and I'm going to put app use course, and let me refresh. Now you can see that we have our API successfully fetched, and we can see all the 3 tasks inside our console because we actually have console logged our tasks. Now that we have fetched our tasks successfully, we can continue to create our app and actually connect all our routes to this form and to this to-do list. So let's go back to our app.jsx. Well, I'm gonna delete these console log tasks. We don't need that. And I think the first thing we need to do is to show the tasks right here. And so this is the first thing we need to do. And then we're gonna handle the create task and delete task and update task and so on. All right, so the next thing, so first we need to just remember that we save our tasks inside this use state variable, and we have these tasks, and we can use them and map through all the tasks to show them right here. So what I'm gonna do is that I go to this part, which is actually the UL right here. So I'm going to close these ULs, and I'm going to delete one of them. And then inside that UL, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tasks, and I am going to map through them. And I'm going to say that each task, we're going to call it a task. And then I am going to open and close parentheses. And let's copy and paste this li inside this map function. So now we need to actually identify each task by its ID. So we're going to use the key attribute, and we say task ID. And don't forget that you have to put this underline here, because as you know and as you remember, in MongoDB, the ID has an underline at the beginning of it. So if you write task.id, it's not going to work unless you actually put this underline at the beginning. So now, as you can see, we have 3 tasks, and here we have 3 tasks as well. So we actually fetched the tasks successfully, but the problem is that the tasks are hard-coded. All of them are, this is a sample task and so on. So in order to get the task, the real ones, what we need to do is to erase this inside the p tag, and we're going to say task.task. So now we have actually learned JavaScript. Meet Jane for studying and clean up your backend file. Now after that, we want to make these dates dynamic, because we want actually these dates to come from the database timestamps. If you remember, we had here created at, so we want to just get the task creation time. So this, the first span is created on, we're not going to change that, but this Wednesday we're going to get the day. So what I'm going to do is to open and close curly braces inside that, and I'm going to use the new date function and we're going to get task.created at, and we're going to just use to locale date string. And inside that, we're going to use the English US format of the date. And also, we're going to use weekday, but it's going to be long, which means actually it's not going to be like wet for Wednesday. It's going to be Wednesday like this. So if I now go to my project, you can see that we have Saturday, which is today, and we get the name of the day. Perfect. So the next part, which is actually the date, So for the date, I am going to again use the new date function and task again created at, and then we're going to use the locale date string. And here again, we're going to use the English US format, and the day should be 2-digit, and the month should be long because we want the full name of the month, and the year should be numeric. Now here we have December 27th, 2025. So you can see we have the date as well. Now the last one, which is actually the clock, which is inside the same span. We don't have to make another one for it. Just after this dash, you can simply open and close curly braces and say new date. And then again, you can go for task.created@, use to locale time string, not date string, time. And then we use English US format again. And inside that, we're going to use hour. It's going to be 2-digit. And then minute should be also 2-digit. So you can see that we have 12:45 a.m. and 12:46 a.m. and this one is 1:33 a.m. 1:30. Okay, very good. Now if I create a new task, let me go to Insomnia, and well, let me go to this post, and let's go to the body, and I will create another one. Let's say I don't know, learn a new language, something like this. And then let's create a color for that. The color should be green. And let me send this. So we have a new task. And if I refresh here, you can see that I have the new task, learn a new language. Here now it's 6:23 p.m. So the clock is now working fine and perfectly. Very good. Now, one thing else we need to do is to make these colors dynamic, because if I go to Insomnia and if I get all the tasks, you can see that one task is red, one task is green, one task is gray, and another one again is green. But if you can see, all the tasks have the same color, and this is not what we were looking for. So let's just create our color categories and then just handle the difference between colors. So under this, let me close this fetch the task function, and let's go under this use effect here. I'm going to create my colors. I'm going to create a comment. Let's const color styles. It's going to be an object of objects. So the red one is going to have a text, which is going to be Tailwind CSS style. So I'm going to give it a text red 400, and I'm going to give it a border red 400. I'm going to copy this. The next one should be blue, and these ones should be blue too, but this 400 should be 500. So the text for blue, we say text blue 500 and border blue 500. Now the next one is green. So text should be text green 400. And yeah, there should be a colon here. And the border should be, I think it's better to copy them, should be border green 400. Now the next one is yellow. So yellow, and sorry, yellow. This greens should be yellow. Very good, but the number should be 400 as well. And the next one is the pink one. Oh, this one I forgot to make this one yellow as well. green, 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 yellow, yellow, yellow. Very good. So this one should be pink. This one should be pink, pink, and it should be 500, and it should be 500 as well. So let's take a look. So we didn't actually check to not to make any mistakes. Very good. Now let's go for the next color, which is the gray. The last color, actually. The gray should be gray, but this one should be 300. And that's it. Now we have our color, and I have a typo here. I'm so sorry. I actually got a little bit tired. That's the reason I'm making mistakes. So this is color styles. So that's it. Now let's go down to our UL right here, this LI. This is the part we need to actually make our styling dynamic. So the first thing I'm gonna go for is the first div right here, which has a border red 400. This is actually the content, the div content. So let's cut the whole thing here. Let's erase this quotation marks. Let's put curly braces and put backticks right here. And I'm going to again copy this styling. Now, what I need to do is that I need to say, I need to just cut this one, this border red 400, and I am going to put a $sign, so it's going to be a variable, and I'm going to use color styles. Inside that, I would say task.color is going to be the style of our border. So you can see that one of them is red, two of them are green, and one of them is gray. And another place we need to make this styling dynamic is actually this span. So you can see here we have text red 400. So I'm going to just cut this first one. I'm going to erase quotation marks, put curly braces, and put backticks. I'm going to paste the code back. Now let's just cut this text red, or delete this text red 400, put a variable using the $sign, and we say color styles, and it should be task.color, and then we just say .text, which is going to be the text color. So this one is green, green, this is gray, and this is red. So I'm going to just copy this one. Where is it? Yeah, this is the class name right here. So let's just copy this whole thing here. Let's go to the next one, and we're gonna paste it for this span as well, and that's it. Now you can see that the red task has a red timestamp and a red border. The green task has a green timestamp, and I think the last one shouldn't be bold. So yeah, here it is not supposed to be bold, font bold. So the last one, you should just erase this font bold. So as you can see now, that just the day is bold. And the gray one has a gray border and a gray color for the timestamp, and the green one as well. Very good. Now, what we need to do is to make this form work. We want to add a task not using this form, because so far we actually added our tasks right here. Add a new task, and let's just use the yellow color. So I'm gonna send. So it is done, and if I refresh the page, you can see that I have a yellow color right here. So what I'm gonna do is to make this form activated, so I can actually add my tasks from here, not from Insomnia. Now let's go up. Let's close this colors objects here to make our page cleaner. Now the first thing we need to do is to create our handle submit or let's write it like this, handle submit, which creates a new task. So to do that, we create an arrow function, const handle submit is equal to asynchronous function, and we're going to give e as the event. We're going to pass the event as a parameter, as an argument. And the first thing we need to do is to e.prevent default, because we want to prevent the form from its default action. Now, if I submit, you can see that the page gets refreshed. And this is not what we want to do, what we want to happen in React. This is the sense of React is not to page to be refreshed. We want a single page application. So what we do, what we should do, we go to this form, we open an attribute you called on submit, and inside that we're going to use this handle submit. Now what happens is that if I submit, you can see that the page does not get refreshed. It doesn't matter how many times I submit the form. And this is the first step. Now the second step is that we need to create a try catch block, and inside that try catch, first let's put our error, which is the necessary part, and let's say console.error, or let's say console.error creating task, and then we're going to show the error. But in the try catch, I am going to first say if there's no task, I mean if the task input is empty and the user tries to submit the form, but the user doesn't write anything, we're going to have a toast error. And the toast error, you remember that we actually installed a package called React Toastify. We actually imported the things here because we want to show a toast error at the corner of our application. So you say that we just need to show a toast error, and the error should be you must write a task. And we actually can style our toast error a little bit. So we can say the style of this toast error should be a background of let's say 030712, and the color should be tomato, and the font size should be 16 pixels, and let's give it a border radius of 8 pixels. And that's it. Now we're going to actually, after that, we're going to return. Very good. So now after this, so we say if there is no task, but what if there is a task? If there is a task, we're going to say const res, and which means response. We're going to await for Axios to post the API URL. To remember, this API URL we actually put here, which is our backend API URL. So we're going to use this API URL, and inside that we're going to say that the task should be equal to task, and the color should be equal to color, and the task done by default should be false. You know that at the very first step we need our task done to be false. Now what we need to do after the task is created, we need let's just console log task created, and we just want to show the, let's say, show the res.data, and also I want to set task to an empty string, to its default value. I want to set the color to gray, which is its default value, and I want to fetch tasks here. And you have to do this because if you don't, after you create if you don't actually call for this function, after you create the task, you're not going to see the task here unless you refresh. But I don't want it to happen. I want to see the task as soon as I submit this button. So I think we're good to go, but there's one more step. There are actually 2 more steps, or 1 more step to take. We need to go to our form and we need to handle this input. Let me open this form. We have an input here. What you need to do with that input, you're going to give it a value of task. Yeah, so this input is actually the task we're going to input. And also you need to use an onChange attribute. It's going to be, you just use an event, and we say set task e.target.value. Set task e.target.value means you should set the task to whatever the user inserts inside this input. Now, if I submit the form, an empty form, you can see that we should have this toast error. You must write a task, or you must write something inside the task. Now, it doesn't matter how many times you actually submit the form empty, it doesn't work, and it just shows you the error. But if you, for example, write a task, let's say, for example, we say, I don't know, cook dinner, and let's make it blue, and let's submit. Now we have the task cook dinner here at the end, which is on Saturday, December 27th, and this is the timestamp. Now, what is actually here a good question is that, can we actually make these new tasks to stay up? Because actually this is the oldest task that we have, and this is the newest task. And this is somehow weird, because we normally arrange them in a way that the newest task should be at the top. So yeah, that is actually very easy to do. So we go here where we actually map our tasks under this UL. So what you need to do is to actually, you need to use the sort method to, to be able to order your tasks in a way that you like. So after this task, you just right before this dot map, you enter 2 times, and then you actually write a dot sort, which is another array method. And then what you need to do is to open and close parentheses, and inside another parenthesis, you say A and B, which is going to be actually 2 tasks. So we say new date. Again, we're going to use the timestamp. We say be created at, and after that, we're going to say new date again, and then we say A created at. So it's going to actually order the tasks using the created at, which is the timestamp, and it's going to actually get the oldest ones to the bottom of the tasks, and it actually gets the newest one to the top of the tasks. So as you can see now, if I create a new task right here, if I say, for example, I don't know, wash the dishes, and I make it pink and I submit, you can see that the newest task is right here. If I try to submit it empty, I'm going to get an error. Very good. Now, the next step we need to take is to actually create the delete function. We're going to create a delete function to be able to delete a task by clicking on these delete buttons. So I'm going to close this. Oh yeah, I closed it already. This handle submit. Under that, I am going to create a handle delete, and I'm going to delete a task, and it's going to be const handle delete. It's going to be an asynchronous function. We're going to use the ID as the parameter, and then inside that we're going to first create a try catch block. Now the catch part should be console.error, and then we're going to say error deleting task, and then we're going to show the error. Now inside try, we're going to say first if window.confirm are you sure. it means that we're going to ask the user if the user is sure before deleting the task. So by the time the user clicks on this, it's not gonna delete the task right away, because it might be dangerous. Maybe somebody just clicks on this button by mistake. So we're gonna get a confirmation from the user. So if the user is sure, so we're gonna await Axios and delete. So here you need to open and close backticks, and let's use the API URL, and after your API URL you're going to use the ID. So where is the ID? So the ID comes from here, which is actually the parameter here. So there's a mistake here. What is the mistake? I need to, oh yeah, I think we have an extra curly brace right here. Oh no, what did I do wrong? I did something wrong. Oh yes, sorry. I did a terrible mistake. You write API URL here, and outside that curly brace, then you actually write your ID. So this is the correct way. And after that, we say fetch tasks again, because we want our component to render whatever the tasks, whatever we can see from the tasks after the delete operation. So to make the delete task work, I have to go to my UL right here. So let's just find the delete buttons. These are the buttons, and this trash, this red 500 is actually the button. So I'm going to use an onClick attribute on my button, and then I am going to use a function on it, and I'm going to use the handle delete function. And remember that you have to put the task ID on the I think I need to, sorry, I just made a mistake. Let me do that again. You're going to use onClick. So let's create a function, and let's say here you need to use the handle delete function, and what you need to do is to put task.id here. So on click, we're gonna use the handle delete function, but the ID is gonna be the task ID. So whatever the task ID is, for example, it's gonna get it as a parameter. It says if the task ID is like this, I'm gonna delete this task. So let's just test it. Let me refresh. I want to delete this learn JavaScript. So when I click, it says, are you sure? If I okay, now perfect, the task is deleted. Now let's delete a few more tasks. It's deleted. Now let's just delete this gray one. It's deleted. Very good. Excellent. So now the delete function is working perfectly fine. Now what we need to do is to go for the done task, because if we click on this circle, we want the task to be done. We want this circle to change the UI and to get checked, and we need this p tag to have a line through and change this style a little bit. So let's go for that. All right, so to make this check button work, and if we want to change that, let's just have a look on our tasks here. You can see that we have a task done here, so it is actually by default false. If we actually want to change the situation from not done to done, we need to change this false to true. Now, so the only thing we need to change here is to get one specific task and get its task done and turn it from false to true. And we also need to return it if the user regrets. For example, if the user changes the task done from false to true, if the user realizes that this is not a task I did actually, so the user can actually makes it back to false. So we need to toggle it actually. To toggle that, we're going to create a function. We're going to create first a comment here. We say handle is done, and we're going to just mark the task as done. Let's const mark as done, and here we're going to create an asynchronous function. Let's just put the task as the parameter inside that parenthesis. Let's use a try catch block here. So the error is always the easiest one, so let's just handle that first. Console error. Inside that, we're going to say error updating task, and inside that, we're going to put the error. And let's go for this try block. So we say we're going to wait for the Axios to put. So put, remember that this put request method is for updating. So we can put the task, and we're going to use the API URL. And then after that, we're going to put a slash, and then we're going to say task dot underline ID, which is the MongoDB ID format. And after that, we're going to say what part of the task we're going to update. We're going to update the task done. And do you want to make it true or false? We actually want to toggle it. So we say whatever the task is done, the task done situation is, you have to just change it the other way. If it's true, you should make it false. If it's false, you should make it true. And after that, we're going to just fetch tasks. Sorry, it's a function, so you need to just put the parentheses. So be careful to call for these fetch tasks always when you make a change inside your project. So I'm going to get this function, and where do we need to use it? Where do we have to use it? We have to use it inside the check button here, the circle button. So let's go down. Here I have a button, ** circle. There I'm going to just use an onClick attribute, and inside that onClick I am going to use a function, and then we use mark as done, and then we actually use the task inside that. So this button, this icon is * circle, but if the task is done and if the situation is true, we want actually this icon. We want this check circle. So it's easy to do. What we need to do is to just let's cut this * circle, and inside that button, let's open and close curly braces. Let's say if the task is not done, if the task done is not true, so we need to just show is not, yeah, so we need to just, let's just copy it. We need to show * circle. Otherwise, we need check circle, this one, and that's it. Now you can see that all of our tasks are not done. The situation task done for all of them is false. If I click on the first one, for example, you can see that now we have a check icon here for the first one. And if I go to my Insomnia, if I get all the tasks, you can see that one of them should be true. Yeah, the last one, actually this wash the dishes, is now has a true task done situation. Now if I make all of them clicked like this, and if I go to Insomnia and send for them, you can see all of them are now true. Very good. So there's one more thing I want. Now you remember that I actually regretted and I actually unchecked 2 of them. Let's check that again. You can see now we have true, false, false, true. So actually I redo the task and action. Now I want one more thing to do. If the task is done, I want this p tag to have a line through and a gray color. So it's very simple. I am going to go up and find the p tag, which is here. We have a class of text XL and MB1, right? So what I'm gonna do is to cut this part. Let's erase these quotation marks. Let's open and close curly braces. And here I will use a $sign and I say if the task done is not true, so we're going to just show this classes. Otherwise, we're going to show these classes, but in addition to that, we're going to have a line through and a text gray 400. Now you can see that the tasks that are done and clicked as checked have a line through and a gray color. So, very good. Now, there is one more thing I want to do to this project. I want to add a clear all button at the bottom to the bottom of the project. Sometimes I want to just clear all the tasks at once, and I don't want to just do them one by one because probably I have a lot of tasks. So to do that, let's create a button down just under the UL right here. Let's create a comment, clear all buttons. I'm going to create a button. I'm going to call inside that clear all tasks. Let's give it a class name of BG gray 700 and a width full and a PY or padding from top and bottom 3, a PX padding from left and right 5, a rounded XL, which is the border radius, a cursor pointer, and let's have a hover BG gray 800. Now, I think we need a margin top for that. Let's give it a MT2. So that's better. Very good. Now we have a clear all tasks. Now to do that, first we need to go to our backend because we don't have any methods for that in backend. We actually only created our delete one by one controller. Let me go to my backend, go inside controller and task controller. As you can see, you have only delete a task method. You don't have delete all the tasks. So let's create a delete all tasks. And for that, this is actually much simpler. Let's create delete all tasks. It's going to be an asynchronous function. We're going to give it a request and response. And let's create a try and catch block. And also we need first, let's go for the catch part, for the error part. So we're going to have a res status 500. We're going to have a JSON message for that. So the message is going to be error.message. And the try block here is going to await for task.delete many. This time we're going to use delete many, which means actually we're going to delete many tasks, not just one. And we're not going to choose any specific ID or I don't know, table or something like that. It means that whatever tasks are there inside that database, you should just delete them. We're going to just res status 200, sorry. And then we're going to show a JSON message, which is going to say all tasks deleted. Now let's export this delete all tasks function. And we're going to go to our routes. And inside this routes, I'm going to create a new route. I say delete or clear all tasks, or let's say delete. In backend, we say delete. Delete all tasks, router.delete. And then we're going to use actually the root directory. which is API tasks, and then we're going to use delete all tasks, and we need to import this delete all tasks right here. Very good. Now, well, there are two ways we can just test it in Insomnia first, but let's not do that because we have now a perfect front end in which we can actually use this route. And so let's go to our front end and just make this part work. So what I do is I go to my project and let's go to my app.jsx. Let's close this handle is done. And what I'm going to do is I will create a new function. And it's handle clear all, which is going to clear all tasks at once. So I'm going to say const clear all. It's going to be an asynchronous function. We don't need any parameters or arguments. And let's create a try catch block. So the catch part is going to be console.error. We say error clearing tasks, and then we're going to show the actual error. Inside the try block, we're going to say if windows that confirm again, because we want to have window confirmation from the user. Are you sure you want to clear all tasks? And just let's emphasize that the user is clearing all the tasks. Let's await for Axios .delete, and then we're going to simply use API URL. Let's just fetch tasks. Let's just call for the fetch tasks function because we want to just change because we want to just submit the changes to the UI of the project. Now let's go to this button and this clear tasks, all tasks button. Let's use an onClick attribute on that, and we just put the clear all function inside that. Now, if I click on clear all tasks, first we face a window confirmation. Are you sure you want to clear all tasks? If we click cancel, nothing's going to happen. But if I click OK, you can see that everything is now gone. If I check that inside my Insomnia, you can see that now we have an empty array because we actually deleted everything inside that database. Now, this doesn't make any sense if I have this clear all tasks button here if I don't have any tasks. So I can just make it conditional. I can just make it to show up if and only if I have any tasks. So what I can do is to go under that, up above that button, I can just put open and close curly braces. If I say, and I say, if tasks length is greater than 0, length means the number of tasks. What you can do is you can show this button. But if it is not, you should hide it. You can see that we have now no tasks, so the button is actually not there. If I create a new task, learn JavaScript and React. Now, if I just make this yellow and submit, you can see that I have my task. Now the clear all tasks is right there. Do another task as an example. I enter and I have this as the gray one because I didn't choose any colors. So this is it. Now we have a fully functional application and it actually does the CRUD operation perfectly well. You can create, you can delete all, you can see all of the tasks, you can get just one single task, update task, and whatever you actually like. I hope it was a very good practice for you, and thank you for watching the video. If you liked my video, if it was useful for you, please like and subscribe. I am definitely going to create more full stack projects, and not only with Node.js and JavaScript, but also with PHP, Laravel, Vue.js, Angular, and so on. So just support me if you can, and just drop me a comment if you have any opinion about my work. And more projects are coming, so I would be grateful if you follow and subscribe my channel. Thank you so much, and see you.